fast TV phenomena, the next growth phase. So as we all know, the concept of fast TV has been growing in popularity with several major media companies and streaming services launching their own fast TV offerings. The phenomena has evolved further with new players entering the market and new developments in the industry. And to discuss on this, to elaborate these points, we have a lot of esteemed dignitaries in between us today. So would like to take the honor to invite Mr. Prashant Chothani, co-founder and CEO, Travelxp. May I please have the honor of inviting Mr. Prashant on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for all our speakers who are coming one by one on stage. And now I would like to take the pleasure to invite Mr. Vikas Khanchandani, APAC Head, DistroScale Incorporation. Please welcome Mr. Vikas. I could not hear the applause. Thank you so much, ma'am. We have Mr. Gulshan Verma. Would like to take the honor to invite the CEO of Jioads, Mr. Gulshan Verma. Would like to take the honor to invite Mr. Kunal Mehta, Head Partnerships, Samsung TV Plus. Please welcome Mr. Mehta. We have Mr. Venugopal Iyengar, COO, Digital Planetcast. May I take the pleasure to invite you on stage, Mr. Venugopal. We have Mr. Ganesan, SVP, Senior Vice President, Sales, APAC, Amagi. Please welcome Mr. J. And along with all of them, would like to invite our session chair, of course, Mr. Sunil Lulla, Founder and Chief Evangelist, the Linus Adventures. Please welcome Mr. Lulla.
Anybody want to just explain to the audience what FAST stands for and what does it mean? Very quick, one person from this panel. Anybody?
Free ad-supported television.
Yeah, free ad is like an oxymoron, right? Because you got to watch that. Having said that, right, I think just get a quick sense from each of you. How are you looking at the marketplace being built? What's the strategy out there? Is this marketplace being built? Is it highly competitive? Is it too early to even talk about it? And what shifts are you seeing with the consumer? We can go clockwise and then we'll go anti-clockwise.
Okay. Hi, I'm Venu. I'm with Planetcast. I look after the digital businesses. And FAST is one of the verticals that we do. We basically enable distribution of content across all mediums and platforms. So coming quickly to what we see happening, the distribution landscape change we've already talked about in the morning session, right? And for media owners, there's like hundreds of options opening up, which is great news. But along with it, there is a complexity of how do you manage not only distributing your content without too much conflict of interest or conflict of revenue, and secondly, also how do you create a differentiated proposition for the viewer at the front end? I mean, there's no point doing live channel and then which is paid on a pay TV operator platform and then FAST as well. So those two challenges are, of course, being dealt with by the media owners end, and the distributors end, like I was talking about, is really about figuring out how to manage this experience for the user, personalizing it, making it more intuitive. So that I think that's we sit in the middle, and we're trying to help both content owners and platforms figure these problems out, and I think that's the evolving journey.
Thanks. So, Gulshan, you have the largest base, or you don't have the largest base? Fair to say you have the largest base.
We have a decent reach.
Decent reach.
Yeah. So, Jioads is obviously part of the Jio Platforms group. We have our own fast apps, I suppose you'd call it, Jio TV Plus,
yes,
and Jio TV, which is free to at the point of consumption. We also work with several other partner apps, including Planet Marathi, where we go and help them monetize on their own apps as well. So I think the short answer right now is people want to watch a lot of content, and they want the variety of it, and they are willing to watch ads in exchange for a richer experience or more variety. And this is not just an Indian phenomenon because we're in India. If you look at the US, for example, you take something like Hulu TV. They have two plans, a $12.99, at least it used to be $12.99 a month with no ads, and the $7.99 a month with ads. 95% of users take the $7.99 with ad space. I think the gentleman before us was talking about Peacock. Peacock is I think mostly a fast ad-supported network. And so the whole statement is that, the original view of OTT was supposed to be, it's a premium experience, one channel to watch everything, and then everyone came in and said, I'm launching my own experience, and all of a sudden we went from having 1 or 2 OTTs to 15 to 25 to 30. And that becomes a difficult concept for most people. So there'll always be interest in fast, I think. And the way I look at it is there is completely non-ad supported, there is a hybrid version, and there is one which is completely ad supported, and I think they will continue to grow side by side.
So Vikas, just to twist the conversation a bit, right? And your passion for cohorts and what it means for audiences, to add to that.
Right, so that I don't just repeat what everybody else is saying, if you look towards the West, and US is a great market to look at, this year, FAST was bigger than SWOT streaming, right? And all streaming put together was bigger than cable and DTH already. And this is a $70,000 plus per capita income market. So you can imagine what's going to happen here where the per capita is under $3,000. The other thing that's really happening is that a lot of genres are getting really pushed out of traditional distribution. So if you look at categories like English movies, English entertainment, and now slowly many other categories are feeling the heat. And these guys are getting pushed out of traditional distribution. FAST is becoming a great place for them to land. This is giving them an opportunity to reach the right audiences and build viewership around it. Now with cookie deprecation, I think content cohorts is, the ideal way to sort of build audiences. This is exactly what even Google Sandbox is trying to do. It's saying, hey, these are sports audiences, these are gaming audiences, these are, comedy audiences. You could do the same thing, right? You could cluster content and you can make those audiences available to partners. Albeit it comes with all the other capabilities of targeting because it's a digital medium. So I think a lot will evolve. And what I can gather from the conversation that most of the SSP partners are having, they're starting to now bundle content by these cohorts. So they want to go to the market, to advertisers, offering capabilities for them to target these cohorts. So I think it's exciting times ahead.
That's great. Mr. Chothani, is this all adding to your complexity or making your life easier now?
We entered FAST 4 years back in Europe. We are largely a pay TV operator, a broadcaster in 110 countries on pay TV. We also have our OTT offering. So we are across the board. So what it helped us was that FAST helped us to graduate people to go on to pay TV and then to get into SWOT. So FAST is, when you said what is FAST, it's DD free dish on steroids.
Yeah.
So actually if you speak, it's
That's
nothing.
a nice definition.
Yes, it's DD free dish on steroids because you can monetize it better is what you think. Not yet, but one day you will be because the fill rates are still, CPM rates are pathetic as Ashish said in the earlier session. Even your fill is between 3 to 15% is what I know. It's pathetic because the number of impressions are increasing. The advertising budgets are not going to increase that way. And it's not that the television advertising budget is going down. The growth has slowed down. So nobody is going away. Everything is going to be there. We need to be everywhere. That's the key takeaway we understood when in the West, when we entered into FAST. And it's not that it took away from our pay TV audience or it took away from our OTT offering. So consumer is also consuming, as Manoj said in the last session, that the consumer is watching everything everywhere. So it's not this or that. It's this and that and that. So this is one more, and it's a good thing to talk. As a media industry, we are adding new and new items for discussion. Panel discussions are happening. As what was the flavor last 3-4 years, now FAST is the flavor.
And as the person who actually dominates the screen, Kunal?
Sunil, I'll just add a few points. In terms of when we wanted to launch FAST in India, the basic premise was to have high quality, production quality content available on FAST. So all your live TV channels, which are traditionally consumed at home and are producing content at a very high level, are all available to us today. The second thing to remember was the ease of conversion from DTH, cable, other means to fast. So the EPG, the look and feel, the choosing of the LCN. Ashish was mentioning his mother-in-law still has an issue, navigating through fast. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to keep it as simple as possible for the consumer to consume television, live channels on fast. Yes, a few genres have kind of come in, taken over the entire opportunity, and news is dominating the market. There is a need for other genres also to start, investing into content, investing into fast. And, about 80% of my consumers today watch some ad-supported streaming content on our fast television. So that just shows you how powerful, the medium is, whether it be TV Plus or YouTube or any other OTT application on the platform. So, we just continue to build on it at the moment. Yeah.
Thanks, Jay.
So I think pretty much everybody has covered most of it, but at least as Amagi, what we are seeing more from a global context and also Indian context, right? I mean, for any of this which is free ad supported, the moment you start with it, there are going to be 4 key players, right? Starting from the consumer, of course, who's eventually watching, who's ready to give some of his time watching an ad for getting a free content. They clearly see value in fast because on AVOD, there's so much of content. You just end up, when you want to have a lean back experience, you just don't know what you want to watch. Like, let's say if I'm in mood for watching a stand-up comedy content, I go search for it. You throw me like 300 hours across 20 different apps. I don't even know where the hell to start with, right? So it's much rather I go to channel number 255. Any stand-up comedy that's coming, I'm going to watch. So some genres are definitely more suited for a linear viewing than AVOD. From a platform perspective, be it people like Kunal coming from a from a OEM perspective, or a SVOD or an AVOD app, or even a pay TV, for them it makes perfect sense because certainly as the ARPUs are going down and more viewership anyways moving towards streaming, the touch rate of the content, mostly for AVOD, is like, most of them I talk to even in Southeast Asia or Australia, 95 to 98% of the catalog that's carried by any AVOD platform is not watched by even one subscriber in the last 12 months. Because you can watch yourself as a subscriber, you're pretty much watching only the top curves. So fast is a much easier way. And number 2 is, especially for AVOD, if I'm going to be sitting in front of the screen for 30 minutes, I'd rather spend 30 minutes watching content rather than 30 minutes discovering content. That's 30 minutes wasted discovering content, right? So it makes sense for the platform. For a content owner, clearly, there is so much of long tail library which is just lying around. You just need to create single IP channels, niche interest channels, go and distribute it globally. Little regulations, no landing rights. So the entry barriers are much smaller. Just go ahead and create it, right? And finally, the advertisers are eventually going to follow the eyeballs. So at this point in time, there is still more viewing happening on terrestrial and broadcast and like DTH. But as content viewership moves, and that's what we've seen in the US, right? So if you look at a place like the US, it starts from distribution, where more content owners are ready to distribute to fast. The second is engagement, where the audience is going to spend more minutes. And then the Gulshans of the world are going to follow, right? We are now, I think, in India at a phase where the distribution is starting to happen, especially in certain genres. Yeah. The engagement has also started happening. The next part is the whole monetization gig that will absolutely happen, because as Indian audience especially, we are absolutely okay to watch ads in return for getting it free, especially in certain genres.
So I'm going to throw 3-4 questions. Pick up what you like, whoever, right? How do you drive this growth to be on top of this game? Which brands or which categories are actually playing a great strategy out there? If you don't want to give a name, what are they doing? And what are we doing to educate the entire ecosystem, right? There are agencies out there, there are advertisers out there, and there's consumer, right? So because this is a mixed game, there's no cookie cutout here, right? You just got to play with all three. So whoever wants to go first?
So Sunil, I think the amount of conversation around FAST has been so much that most brands, most agencies are pretty much aware of it. The larger challenge that we are facing is that the conversation is device-centric. So it's either large screen or it's small screen. My view, that conversation needs to change at some point or time. And I think that would happen when you get enough reach across distribution, right? Because the way I look at it, and I've been a traditional player too, we transitioned from cable to DTH, and we moved from DTH to HD boxes. And even when we transitioned from cable to DTH, there was this brouhaha, right? It needs to be sold separately. It needs to be monetized at a premium. And we said all of that. There was just a lot of conversation, and we went back to selling content. Now the distribution is on the internet pipe. The consumer is on a small screen or a large screen. How does it matter? Now, I think that sort of evangelizing needs to be done at scale, and I think partners will need to build reach before advertisers take it seriously. Up until then, it's still a line item on the DSP. Yeah. That's what it is.
Sure. Gulshan.
Yeah, I think in the interest of just making an interesting discussion, let me give a slightly opposed view to that conversation. I think today, if it's fast, I think there has been advertiser adoption. I don't know any single advertiser I work with today that makes this very strong distinction between, is it a fast channel, or is it a premium channel, or is it something else? As long as it's professionally produced content, I think people are happy with it. Obviously, I think sports sits in a slightly different category to itself. So I don't think I worry about adoption per se. My personal view on this is that we talk about cookies and we talk about this, but frankly, all that's required is to get people to log in. Okay? Once you log in, no one worries about cookies and stuff. And Ashish and I used to talk about this, and I spent a lot of time in one of the larger newspaper organizations saying, please get people to log in. And we got people to log in, and it went up from 2% to 6% in 3 years, because the entire editorial team was so focused on, I will say this, they're my friends, but I will say it, on users, okay, MAUs, DAOs, etc. So I personally think that the cookie thing actually is a good news for the fast channels and the OTTs, because people will go back to a more considered environment. I have very little hope for a cross-channel measurement activity.
Yeah.
Okay. We've tried to do it for 15 years now across digital and TV. We couldn't do it because, unfortunately, the issue is this, and I've been saying this for so many years. I can do it from memory. Ads don't just happen between content anymore. I sell ads on JioMart and Agio, and I'm able to show this is a person who bought Agio Lux, and then they went and bought a Bulgari, whatever it was, or a Bali bag. And so now the world has become, there was a bunch of clubby media owners who used to talk about video and media content. And while they were talking about it, everybody started saying, hey, this is a really great ads business. Can I do it on Swiggy? Can I do it on, as an example, my own app, which is MyJio? MyJio has 2 million users a day who recharge a lot of money on a multiple basis. And that's where users are, where people are looking to reach and spend content. And so the statement I'm making right now is the world of media was very used to having 4 or 5, maybe 15, now a few hundred channels. Now those same ads are running across PhonePay, Paytm, utility apps, e-commerce apps, social media feeds, UGC, where people are flicking through. We can't even agree on the definition of what does it mean to see an ad.
Yeah.
Is it with the sound off, sound on, how long, in and out? And none of us wants to share data because that's the only thing that we have. So I have zero faith in our ability as a group to create a cross-media thing. Okay.
And Venu told me that technology wasn't a challenge anymore.
Yeah. No, I mean, okay, so that's a fun take.
Sorry, Venu, I've just,
From Gulshan.
I've been hearing it for 10 years now.
I'll move to slightly easier subjects, right? No, the one thing that we would love to see happen in an Indian context or an Asian context, especially when we're talking with a lot of our customers, content owners, right, is the usage of content in itself. And there's a lot of interesting cases, especially how sports does it in the US, or how even entertainment with single IP content, when you know that, something as Hum Log Aur Bunyad has that kind of a pull, and building the ability to do that, looking at how do you create genre-based entertainment, and within genres, how do you create subgenres? Because finally, at the end of the day, the proposition has to be clear to the consumer. They are going to be dipping in and dipping out, which is what a lot of people used to say about music television, if you remember, right? Snack in, snack out. So very often, fast is that. In fact, game shows do fantastically well. We're not experimenting enough, right? One of the things that Banijay will tell you is that game shows do great because, you can jump in anytime, get out anytime, and there are lots of properties that we've created which can be so we're not we need to experiment a little more on the content side to figure out what fits this. I think those would be great moves to watch on how this is coming. And like I said, on the distribution at the end point, right? I think a lot more work on the personalization side needs to happen. There is very little data today to really, there are very little numbers you'll see around. Like for instance, we go to a multicultural market like the US, it's very difficult to get hold of ethnicity, that's watching, which should be more or less straight, but it's not that easy. You can't really differentiate platforms based on the ethnicity, and it's very click-based. So that, I think, well, there may be reasons for not coming out with that data, and I know OEMs will want to play it close to the chest. But at the end of the day, I think that's what's going to help you personalize, and it's going to help. Till you don't personalize that, it's going to be a sea of content. Like you say, you can't even differentiate between an ad and content anymore. Where you're watching it, the platform, is it a channel? Is it an app that I'm watching on? Is it my payments app that I'm watching on? So in clutter like this, it's really important to know who you're addressing and what you're giving them, and tailor stuff. That I think all the work we'll do on that front is going to help us incredibly in being able to increase viewership.
So, Prashant, you're an early adopter of.
Yes, so
right?
I want to add one more thing.
Yes.
What happened in the US? So we were talking 3 years back, linear is dead. Now we are saying that fast is the highest watched content in the US. That means linear is not dead. In the Indian context, CPMs on linear are pathetic. Advertisers have not gone to buying impressions where Bark was started. You were the CEO there. You know very much how much we have struggled to make the agencies come to buy impressions. So what is happening now, even if you see at Z Media, they have now done that the selling of digital and traditional TV is going to be one. So the effort is that the advertisers will need to buy impressions. The moment you calculate impressions, CPMs on TV are, say, 3 cents. On fast, 3 cents on linear. Today, Indian CPMs are less than 3 cents. The moment you calculate CPMs. Now equate that to the fast ecosystem in India. If they are going to sell at $3, $5, how much they are going to be able to sell it to the advertiser? So the advertiser is going to ask, if I am paying 3 cents on linear television, why should I pay $3 on fast? These are the conversations really going on right now. This is a key challenge. That's why the fill rates are not going up. So now we are saying that if you are willing to pay $3 to fast, why not pay $3 to linear? So now what Bark was made for, that advertisers should buy for impressions, that should come. Ultimately, you're buying impressions on both sides.
But given that this world is not going to come together on measurement, right? It becomes the onus of various players like you to carry this burden forward, right?
No, but even measurement on fast and measurement on digital is also questionable. Nobody is sharing. There is no transparency.
No, but
it says that you can see. I can see my own face in the mirror, but nobody else can see my face. That's the point.
May I jump in here?
Yeah,
okay. So, the funny thing is that, and I talked to Saurabh, who's also my CFO, in the morning, so he says the same thing. We had the conversation about sell-through rates and fill-through rates. And so I was like, why is your sell-through rate not 100%? And we had this conversation. Advertisers aren't buying impressions. They're buying reach and frequency, okay? The difference is that when we're having the conversation, we are saying these are people who live in Bombay, we are people who live in, who have a credit card, who live in a certain male, female dominated household, whatever you want to say. And I want to show it 5 times. That's what they're paying for. Linear TV does the same thing, but it just drives 100x more impressions to do the same job. The problem here is that we still have 40 plus advertisers who dominate the market, okay? Unlike markets like the US or Australia or even China. China is a fabulous market for television. If you look at it, there's very strong local regional advertisers. The issue is when you have 50 advertisers who drive 80% of the market, they'll create the metric. And I was sitting on the ad club jury last night online, like reviewing all the media buying plans. It's the same 20, 30, 50 advertisers. You will not get a higher fill rate until you understand that we're not selling impressions, we're selling reach and frequency. And yes, completely right that there's no transparency about it. Don't disagree, okay? Because everyone has their internal metrics, everyone has their internal measurements. We keep trying to have that conversation. But linear does the same job, but it just requires too much effort. And we can only solve that if we go from having a world of 50 advertisers who drive 80% to a world of, 5,000, 10,000.
So will this category come together at least to educate, whether it's the advertisers or the agencies, because they stand to gain the most?
I'll give you an example. So last month, we started building out video ads for SMB advertisers using Gen AI. We have built our own tool. You put a prompt in, we'll create, you'll create, what do you say? You'll say, I'll give you an example. My first customer in December was a Chinese restaurant in Jharkhand.
Wow.
Okay? Hyper-local targeted in his area to reach that pin code. Okay? And he's happy to pay, 150 rupees CPM because I've taken all the stress out of it. Now, in your world, and it was all online. The whole thing was done on WhatsApp. We sent him a link. He wrote a couple of prompts. He picked the versions that came up, signed up, paid in advance. It was running. We sent him a report on WhatsApp. Like, until you build that marketplace out, we will always be having the same conversations.
Kunal, do you get restricted because it's the Samsung world, or do you get stronger because of the Samsung world?
I believe I get stronger because it's the Samsung world. See, there are 3 fundamental factors, right? And we continue to educate the market both on the advertiser side as well as the content owner side. We've been doing this since about 2 years. It's a fairly new phenomena. I personally believe the distribution is kind of in place. We have FAST now available across televisions from 2017 to till date. And the uptake for CTV or smart TVs is so large that we're pretty much sorted in terms of the distribution for the next coming few years. We're doubling it, I think, by 25. Having said that, there are broadcasters which are still not geared up to deliver content to FAST. The technology is still not there. That's where Jay and Venu kind of come in and help those guys out. But still, the whole hesitation of pay versus fast versus is this the right time to enter, etc. That's a challenge. Viewership keeps skyrocketing. So where the viewership goes, I believe the advertisers naturally would go. With large brands, more and more large brands coming on board, broadcasting brands, I believe this problem should be sorted pretty much soon. I totally agree with what Prashant is saying in terms of CPMs going down or there's pressure on CPMs, etc. That needs to be fixed for sure.
So what should be done at a faster scale from an industry point of view, or you as a player, or you as a platform point of view, to really get what Ashish Ferwani quoted as saying, 1/3 of the market should belong to this category?
I can possibly go first in that, right? So the the primary thing is, whenever I talk to content owners or people who have been running broadcast channels for the last 5, 10, 15 years, depending on wherever, the one thing which is common, right, which is be it something which is in the free tier or in the pay tier, in general, the revenues that I was making 4 years back, 5 years back, was probably 30%, 40%, 50% more than what I'm making today, right? So if today you are at 60% of what you were making 4 years back, the key thing is that that's a reflection of how fragmented the audience as well is. So again, fast is not a solution to the problem. Fast is one of the solutions to the problem, right? So like what Kunal was talking about, the key thing is that if you have to get back to that 100 from the base of 60 that you're making from broadcast, you need to make dollars on fast, you need to make dollars on SWOD, AWOD, YouTube. When you're producing the content, you think about, can I have it in a podcast format and put it on Spotify as well? And if you are going to be really unifying all this, then it makes sense because you're probably going to make 120. But if you still think that I'm going to do exactly the same thing on broadcast and I need to justify spending $2 on fast, and somebody is going to underwrite the risk that I'm going to make more than $2 on this. Before I go to YouTube, somebody has to underwrite that risk or I have to spend money, then nobody is going to, right? Because the key thing is if you're going to be unifying all that workflow so that you are not looking at getting into all these different mediums as an incremental investment, but a single time investment that you're doing right from the time you're producing the content to the way you're distributing it and the way you're going to be monetizing it, how you're going to be windowing the content, that's the most critical thing.
Yeah, sure.
Also, what is going to happen that when you see, like Ashish said, distribution is God. So a lot of people in the ecosystem started thinking, you know the meme, kabhi kabhi apun ko lagta hai apun hi bhagwan hai. So that was the attitude. To access to distribution was a big problem. So fast will create its own set of new channels, new creators, just like the social media ecosystem created its own, like YouTube, you have different kind of news channels. Then the news channels which are there on the linear traditional, so, and this is also unregulated. So there is some time window which is there for 2-3 years till the time it becomes regulated. So till now, there is no A certificate required, there is no caption required, कि यहाँ cigarette smoking है, यहाँ वो है, ये है. So you can dance till you can dance, but then when it is regulated, we need to see what happens then. And when Vikas said that we transitioned from cable to DTH, we never transitioned. We had DTH on top of cable.
Yes.
And nobody went off. Now we are having one more SWOD and now we are having fast. We'll have some new term, we'll find some new technique in the next NAB. What should we find next is the agenda that we'll talk in Vegas.
There is anyway another 150 million homes, which Saurabh said in the morning, right, to come up. But I agree with Jay in the sense that unfortunately the onus is still going to be who needs to do what fast. The consumer doesn't need to do anything. They're going to watch if it's worth watching, right? Platforms are already there to do that. We as enablers for channel creation and ad insertion, we're also there and willing to do business. Unfortunately, the onus comes back on to the content owner, who may feel slightly victimized in this, but the point is, if you're not able to put out a compelling proposition for a consumer who is ready for a device that's available and for technology that's helping you push your content there, then you're going to be left behind because someone's going to jump on that bus. It's not really, there is no option.
Okay, so we just got 2 minutes left. If there's one thing you'd like to do, I'm just going to go around from here to there. This year, 2024, one thing you'd like to do from a fast perspective. We can go in any order.
IPL on fast.
IPL on fast, okay?
Personalization.
Make it more DTV than CTV. So it's more digital television than cable or connected TV television.
Gulshan?
I don't have an answer to that. I would say IPL's already on fast.
IPL only on. Venu?
Transparency around the consumer viewing behavior.
Jay?
I mean, from our perspective, the key thing would be working with the brands eventually to see fast as a separate category within digital, because eventually that market needs to evolve.
So that leaves one thing for Ashish Sherwani, start measurement for all these guys. Okay? Thank you very much. You've been great. I hope it added value to everybody else over here. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Indian Television, for bringing this subject up.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for the wonderful session. And now I will request our session chair to kindly felicitate all our esteemed speakers for the day. So, can we kindly start with our first speaker for the day, with Mr. Prashant Chothani. Can I please have the certificate? May I request all of you to please give them a warm round of applause for taking such a beautiful session. Thank you so much, Mr. Prashant, for joining us for the day. Now moving on to felicitate Mr. Vikas Khanchandani, APAC Head, DistroScale Incorporation. Thank you so much, Mr. Khanchandani, for joining us. Now we'll move on to felicitate Mr. Gulshan Verma, CEO Jioads. We're really glad to have you, Mr. Verma. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge and your expertise with all of us. Now we'll move on to felicitate Mr. Kunal Mehta, Head Partnerships, Samsung TV Plus. Thank you so much, Mr. Mehta, for joining us. Applause should continue for all our speakers who are there on the stage. I could see the hall filled with really positive and energetic people, but I could not see that energy today. So may I request all of you with like this, because I am more audible than all of you. So yes, now we'll move on to felicitate Mr. Venugopal. Yes, he's there, COO Digital Planetcast. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Iyengar. Moving on to felicitate Mr. Ganesan, Senior Vice President Sales, APAC, Amagi. Thank you so much, Mr. J, for being here for the day. And now I would like to take the honor to felicitate Mr. Sunil as well. Applause should continue for him.